Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, my good friend Drew Crawley. How are you, Drew?
Good evening. I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing well, doing really well.
Good.
Excited to have our good friend Amzie Wenning on with us tonight. We're going to get into talking with him about bourbon on the banks. We're going to taste some whiskey with him. We're going to talk to him about some music. But before we do that, I want to tell you a little bit about the Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart is a collection of good friends that make shows about whiskey. They're typically from a craft distillery perspective, but not always. We have Distillers Talk with Christy Atkinson and Alan Bishop. If you have Ghost, you have everything is a new show that Alan is doing with his wife, Kim. They're talking about the spirit side of whiskey and the spirit side of spirits. So it's kind of unique. My Whiskey Den airs every Monday night, 9 o'clock, and that has Pat and Mike and sometimes Ben. And then you have our show, Bourbon Turntable. And as I said before, we talk about music, we talk about whiskey. You're watching the show now, so you probably know what it's about. And we've got some other new shows in the works as well. So stay tuned and look for news on that as well. So before we get much further, we have a very special announcement for you.
All right, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification to find out when new episodes come out, which is every Wednesdays on all of your streaming services everywhere, Apple, Spotify, whatever other ones there are, and the YouTube where you can watch the live recording itself.
Whatever other ones there are. That's so there you go. All right. Well, hey, we have Amzie Wenning with us, and if you know Amzie, you love Amzie, because to know him is, well, you get it. But we're excited to have Amzie with us. He's a very knowledgeable and astute person when it comes to all things whiskey, and all around good guy, very clever, very dry, sharp wit. I always enjoy what Amzie has to say. But Amzie, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. I do think that's my first time on here, correct?
It is. It is
Yeah.
long overdue.
Mm-hmm.
Long overdue. So
you say that now. Let's see what you say after it's over.
Ooh, you made it on twice in one show, first and last. Now. No. So Amzie, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in the whiskey world.
Well, I'm originally from Indiana and moved here to Frankfort, Kentucky about 12 and a half years ago. I really didn't drink bourbon for a long time. Everybody's had probably one of those experiences where you stay away from something for a while. And then when I moved here to Frankfurt, I found out when you live in Kentucky, you really can't drink scotch as much. And so I got back into bourbon here in Frankfurt. Goodness, I think 2017, a group of people founded the Frankfurt Bourbon Society. Mm-hmm. I joined right away, became a board member shortly thereafter. In December this past year, I became president of the Frankfurt Bourbon Society. And then I have also been on the board for Bourbon on the Banks Festival since its inception in 2019.
Wow. So
fantastic.
You're like bourbon royalty then, right?
I don't know. Maybe
yeah.
Some obscure title in the royal family there.
Yeah. So we're Your Royal Highness. So how were you into bourbon before, or you were just a Scotch drinker and then got into bourbon?
So growing up, my dad and my grandfather, they drank bourbon and Coke or Pepsi usually. And like I said, I really didn't drink any bourbon for a long time. Drank some Scotch, but honestly wasn't, super into it. I would drink some like Glenlivet. That was about it. And then, like I said, I moved here and then just suddenly got into it. I know I stopped by Buffalo Trace one day at the gift shop to pick up something. And I was talking to one of the tour guides there. This was kind of before the bourbon boom, and things weren't quite as busy there. And they were talking to somebody about bourbon. I said, well, I like Scotch. And the lady said, I think it tastes like dirt. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm in Kentucky. I better get back on the bourbon wagon. And that was a different time, though. That was when, oh, hey, George T. Stagg's out. I'll go get a bottle. And so early on, I tried a lot of things. There's a cool little bar here in Frankfurt called Capitol Cellars. And they always have been really good about having things behind the bar. That they have a package license as well to sell by the bottle. And the prices were reasonable. So early on, I was able to try a lot of different things. They would have interesting classes with, I remember Chuck Cowdery came down at one point, and we just have different programs, different tastings and things like that. And I really just kind of got into it. I enjoyed it. I like trying different types of bourbon. I'm assuming you might be the same way, maybe not, but I don't have a favorite bourbon.
Right.
It's whatever I'm in the mood for.
Right.
And it's just something I enjoy. I enjoy trying craft distilleries too.
Yeah.
There's so much out there to try, and it's all different. Now my palate, I'm not good at picking out the flavors. I'm like, oh, that tastes like whiskey. Tastes like good whiskey. I like that one.
Yeah.
Get a little bourbon on the nose, maybe. But no, it's just something I enjoy. And then honestly, kind of the culture around it too. I've met a lot of great people, and kind of enjoy the fellowship that goes with bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably honestly the best thing about it. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have good whiskey, but it doesn't mean as much when you don't have good people to share it with and enjoy it with. So want to ask you about a couple of other endeavors that I know you're are enthusiastic about, and one is you're a I believe you refer to it as a rockologist or a mud fossiler. Tell us a little bit about your life as with rocks.
Yeah, and obviously that was just a candid shot. I don't.
Yeah, just like the master distiller shots.
The master distillers.
Yeah,
it's your own version of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I actually used to be a geologist. I worked at the Indiana Geological Survey for about 9 years, and so I collected a lot of rocks and minerals. I'm really not super knowledgeable about fossils. And the whole mud fossil thing, of course, our good friend Alan Bishop started that. And the way that started was we were having a conversation. I don't even remember where we were, and he told me that he found a piece of petrified wood at his house. And I said, no, you didn't. I know where he lives. I've been to his house. I know there's not petrified wood there. And then I believe it was that night or the next night when old Mud Fossil came out and posted his first video. So,
oh my goodness, that's hilarious. Yes, the origin story of the Mud Fossiler. So, and you also go to small racetracks. Is that right?
Yeah, that's something, probably back to my dad and grandpa drinking bourbon and cokes. They were usually watching a car race on TV while they were doing that. And so I just became a racing fan. And I like Indy cars, like Formula One. I like NASCAR. I really like all of it. But my favorite is the little, small, local tracks, dirt tracks especially.
Yeah.
Sprint cars are my favorite. So
very cool.
Very cool. Yeah.
Such a Renaissance man, Amzie Wenning. Hey, so let's drink a little whiskey. You guys, I sent you some samples, and so you'll be tasting these blind because blind is fun. And so we'll start with sample A. So if you've got that handy and if you've got it in a glass already, that's great. If not, let's put it in one.
I'm really intrigued by this, Kevin. I know you always like to throw curveballs when we do this, but I'm definitely getting some malt, definitely getting some smoke. The proof is throwing me off. I have no idea about the age. I don't know anything beyond that, but it's got a nice like peachy kind of a thing. And then the Lay's barbecue chips, like the dust specifically on that. Get a little bit of that. Some weirdness going on here.
All right. So I'm making notes here. So
yeah,
dust of barbecue chips. Okay.
I don't know if that'll be our certified fat guy tasting note of the day.
That,
see what else comes out. But
if they're down to the dust, the fat guy's already been there. So
yeah, it's true. It's true. What do you think, Amzie?
I get marzipan. What about you, Drew?
Fred Minnick, ladies and gentlemen. Fred Minnick is joining. Amzie is channeling
Kevin.
Sir Fred.
Kevin, I was like, oh man, when it comes to blind tasting, I have the worst time thinking, descriptors out. And he said just to say that, just marzipan.
Yeah.
What about you, Drew?
Any impressions on the the age or proof or the overall sense that you get from it?
So, I don't think it's got a ton of age on it. I do feel like, it does almost make me think of a malt whiskey. I agree. There's a lot of malt in there. I mowed my grass yesterday, so a little stopped up. Also, went on a barrel pick with some of our friends last week or the week before. A few of them got the what's being affectionately called the barrel pick plague. We had our own little COVID outbreak, and I tested negative 3 times. But I got sick the same time they were all sick. So
interesting.
So my nose is off a little bit, but
sure there will be a great sticker to come from that.
Yeah. I don't feel like it's a very high proof.
This is usually the part of the show where Kevin just likes to make fun of how inaccurate my guesses are. So.
Yeah. No.
He's like, this is gin. I don't know what's wrong with you people.
Yeah.
You guys never had vodka before.
It's the worst made vodka I've ever had.
All right. So I'm going to hold off on the reveal on this, and we'll go to sample B.
All right. We get any hints on the connection between the two? Can you do that without revealing anything, or is there no way to do that?
They are both whiskeys that I tried for the first time in the last couple of months. How about that?
All right. Very good.
Luckily, I'm not too far from my other glasses. I wasn't prepared with 2.
All good. Ooh, this is different though too. I get a lot of like a hay barn, straw dust, maybe kind of a thing. Oh, that's different. It's like a black peppery spice.
I read some description the other day where a guy said slightly rancid lemon curd, and I'm like, how many times has this guy had rancid lemon curd?
Oh no!
I think that might be one where it only takes once. That one gets firmly implanted in the sensory memory. Oof.
I did have a tasting note of something once that was fairly popular. That it had an aroma of stale urine, and that really offended some people that I was with. So they didn't care for me not caring for that particular brand, but we won't bring that up specifically here.
So another hobby of mine that that I don't do very much, but I like to hunt, and I've hunted since I was young, and I tasted someone's Amberana finished whiskey a while back, and the Amberana is pretty heavy on it, and what it reminded me of was the smell of dough in heat urine, and I can't get that out of my head now. If I taste something finished in Amberana, yeah, I just get deer urine from it. So,
well,
fascinating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Put it in a fancy bottle and a funky label, and people pay hundreds of dollars for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Sample B?
So this one, there's the nose is really different too, and there's something I can't. I almost feel like a floral, perfumey kind of thing I get on the nose.
Yeah, it's quite a bit darker, and I think a little bit more oily as well. It's not quite as sharp on the palate.
No. So, overall impressions of the two, like, not, deer urine.
Go ahead, Amzie.
There's nothing really off-putting about them to me, and that may be like the weirdest way to compliment something, but no, I think they're well made.
Okay. Not off-putting.
I like them.
Amzie Wenning. They'll put that in their marketing material now. Yeah.
No, I mean, I would drink these again. I definitely would. This is one of those things where having a whole bunch of bottles around, it's one I would go back to and revisit on occasion.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I liked a lot. It definitely kind of grabbed my attention quickly. I was like, oh, I'm not sure what this is. Kind of made me push a little farther into it. I like B as well. It's definitely one that I would drink, but it seems a little bit more middle of the road, just kind of what I'm used to. I mean, there's definitely something unique about it, but it's not anything that just shocked me immediately, I guess.
Okay. Well, what we have here, Sample A is the Postmodern Spirits rye whiskey. It's a little distillery in Knoxville. First thing I had of theirs was an American single malt, and I thought it was surprisingly fantastic. But this is, you guys picked up on the malt, 70% rye, 30% malted barley, and there's not an age statement on it, but I'm thinking it's probably pretty young. Then Sample B is from Silverback Distillery over in Afton, Virginia. It is their blackback rye. They call it Lucky 13 because when they first started producing it, they would age it at least 13 months. This is actually right at 2 years. So
very cool.
You know anything about
Go ahead.
You know anything about barrel size that they're using at those? I don't get any kind of small barrel thing, which sometimes you can.
No, I think they don't. I didn't see that in anything that they've disclosed, but I think they're all normal size barrels. I know Postmodern, they work with some of the local breweries on malt and such. And so have you guys had anything from either of these places before?
I've had quite a bit from Silverback, and I really do like a lot of their products. I think maybe this one just didn't shine as much because of proof. Maybe a little bit more, or maybe if I give it more time or something like that, it'd open up a bit more. We've also been burning it at both ends as far as good whiskey this weekend, so it could just be that too.
Could be. All right. Amzie, any other thoughts on what we tried here?
No, I've never tried anything from either one of these distilleries, but I would definitely be interested in trying more of their stuff.
Yeah, I think you said that they seem to be well made, and I would agree with that. I think there's some care that goes into this. I think they're both on the younger side of the equation, but I still think they've got a really good flavor, and it doesn't they don't taste immature.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like them both. I like both of the distilleries. I'm interested to see how they both progress and what else we get from them down the road. I'll have to, if you're into American single malt, I'll have to get you some samples of their single malt, because I like the rye, but I think the single malt's even better. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All right. So,
thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, you're welcome. Glad you enjoyed it and can continue to enjoy it through the balance of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Bourbon on the Banks then, Amzie. We've got this coming up the end of this month, the 30th, Friday night, and then Saturday, October 1st. Now,
Yeah,
you've been on the board there since it started, and it started when?
2019.
Okay.
And so it really was someone that worked at Kentucky State University here in Frankfurt that came up with the idea. Wendy Kobler was her name. And the university kind of decided, she really had this thing up and going. I wouldn't even say a firm foundation. I mean, it was, the shingles were going on, and the university kind of wanted to back away from it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so a few of us at the Frankfurt Bourbon Society were approached. And so we agreed to sort of take it over. And we really did that just as a kind of a placeholder to keep it going until the new 501c3 could be started. And so we had it in 2019. Great event. I don't know. We sold over 1,000, I think maybe 1,200 tickets, something like that. First year had good momentum going, and then 2020 happened. And so we couldn't have it in 2020, ended up pushing it back to October in 21. And actually, even with that, with COVID, we grew attendance 37%.
Wow.
So that was nice. And then we also found out, hey, October is not so bad. The weather is a little more mild. And so we've decided to stick with that first Saturday in October every year. But a couple parts of Bourbon on the Banks is, so Friday night we have a couple different things. We have the VIP reception and auction, and that's actually sold out, by the way. We get, a lot of it. It started as something called Bourbonanza, which raised money for Downtown Frankfurt Incorporated. What we've done is we've really given other charities, if someone has donated some bourbon or something like that, hey, we have a bunch of people there. It's a good time to auction some stuff off. You can probably raise more money. And so several charities benefit from that auction. Probably the biggest item is that Buffalo Trace has donated a single barrel experience for a barrel of E.H. Taylor bourbon.
Great.
They usually give a barrel every year, and I think they actually have donated that to a group called Yes Arts, which uses arts to help at-risk children. So that's just a great event. We're also, we've had different people in the past. So last year we had some different master distillers sampling their product. This year it's sort of a, some top female influencers in the bourbon industry. So I'll look through a few. We've got Ariel Yan from Woodinville, Susan Riegler, Peggy No Stevens, Heather Wibbles from Bourbon Women, Ashley Barnes. Let's see. Jane Bowie may or may not be there. She's had a little career change here, but so she may actually be coming. I don't know what capacity that will be in. Jennifer Brandt, Master Blender at Luca Mariano. Lori Karsich, I believe is how you pronounce that, from Country Smooth Spirits. Marianne Eves will be there. So, and then also there will be some sort of a learning experience with Freddie Johnson from Buffalo Trace that night. So,
Wow.
and then
Very cool.
there's very heavy hors d'oeuvres. It's a great event. Like I said, that's actually already sold out. Then immediately following that, as soon as it's over, we go to Bourbon Street on Broadway, and that is a free event for the public. Fire breathers, eaters, people swallowing swords, aerial acrobatic stuff, stilt walkers, all that, music. The Kentucky State Marching Band will come through, food trucks, everything else. That's a really fun event. And then also while that's going on, there is the Ingram River Aged Pub Stroll. And so some of the participating, bars and restaurants will have some drinks and things like that. You go there, take a selfie, post it on social media, and you can actually win a couple tickets to next year's Bourbon on the Banks Festival.
Very cool.
And then, of course, Saturday, the actual Bourbon on the Banks Festival. You guys were both there last year, right?
I was.
Yeah, I did not get to make it.
You didn't make it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully Kevin told you about it. Hopefully you can make it this year.
Absolutely. That's the plan.
And I absolutely love it. I think it is a great bourbon festival. It's this wonderful setting, Riverview Park that runs along the Kentucky River. It's just upstream from Buffalo Trace by a quarter of a mile, something like that, maybe a half mile. But I don't know. It's just a wonderful setting. It's spaced out. You've got the distilleries set up. So right now we have over 50 distilleries committed at this point. We have some wineries and a few breweries. Sometimes you bring somebody along with you. Maybe they're not a huge fan of distilled spirits. And even though it is Bourbon on the Banks Festival, and we have some of the big producers there, Buffalo Trace, Jim Beam, etc. It's a lot of craft distillers too. And so they're going to have more than bourbon. There'll, of course, be some rye whiskey there, but they're going to be gins, everything else, liqueurs and whatever you can imagine. So it's a great place to go and try a lot of new things. Food trucks, we will have some merchandise vendors there, although we're very careful about what we allow there, and everything is bourbon themed, bourbon related. And that was something that we send out surveys to people who attended, also to the participants, and one of the bits of feedback we got was people wanted some more, merchandise, bourbon themed merchandise to be able to purchase. And so then after that, we have the Goodwood after party. So Goodwood Brewery and Restaurant here in Frankfurt, 6:30 to 11. I guess I should say the time for Bourbon on the Banks Festival is 2 to 6 p.m. There was a VIP early bird option that is actually sold out. That allowed people to get in an hour earlier. But the Goodwood after party from 6:30 to 11 p.m. We actually closed down Main Street in Frankfurt in front of Goodwood. We'll have some music, things like that. You've also got Bourbon on Main right next door. So places where you can go get a drink, get some food, enjoy some good music. And actually for that, we actually have, I'm looking up some of the music right now. Audra McLaughlin, I think she was one of the finalists for season 6 of The Voice. Also, Taylor Hughes, another Nashville recording artist, will be there. So that's always a fun event as well.
Yeah. Just
Very
looking at some of these participants that you've got. I mean, this is a strong group, Bardstown Bourbon Company, which is, by no means small. And they're just big and getting bigger, but they've got a lot of great product there. And Barrel, that is something that a lot of people are excited about, Barrel Craft Spirits. Castle and Key, saw those folks there last year. Rolling Fork, Turner Wathen, he's doing some great things with rum, so that's fun. And Wilderness Trail. Then you'd mentioned Woodinville already. Spirits of French Lick. I think I've heard of them before, so that'll be fun. Three Boys, Hunter. We saw him out there last year. Limestone Branch. I mean, Leaper's Fork. I think that's a very underrated or best kept secret of Tennessee whiskey, anyway.
Absolutely.
And then
and that's actually one Leaper's Fork that like people like you, Mike, Patrick, whoever else, like people tell me about these places, and so I was going to Nashville, and I think it was Patrick that said, "Hey, if you see any Leaper's Fork down there, in a liquor store, you should pick up a bottle." And so while we were down there, Destiny and I looked up, oh, well, hey, it's not that far away. They had tours available. We actually went on a tour there. I got their contact info. We reached out to them, and they decided to participate. So any time you do come across a craft distillery that you think would benefit from participating at Bourbon on the Banks, please pass that along. So, that's another thing is we do not charge the distilleries to participate. And so I think for a lot of, especially, the distilleries starting out, it's not a huge financial outlay for them, but we help promote them. And so, I think it's a good thing. One other thing I thought about when I saw the Wilderness Trail, something we're doing this year that we haven't done before is we will have a single barrel pick available for purchase. It is Wilderness Trail. The Frankfurt Bourbon Society had recently done a pick, and Dr. Pat Heist, came and spoke to us. And I said, "Hey, Pat, do you think we could maybe do a barrel pick for, Bourbon on the Banks, help us raise some more money for the charities we support?" And Pat said, "Well, I don't see why not." And so last week we went and I guess that was actually the week before last. We went down there. It was myself, Alan Bishop, Kelly Tennille, John Waddell from Peerless, Hunter Coffee from Three Boys. And, they rolled out some stuff for us that I don't even know the details as far as age. I need to ask Macaulay down there. But I believe they rolled out some really special barrels for us. We actually ended up doing something fairly unique. Our top two, as we tasted through their mash bills, our top two happened to be a high rye bourbon and a wheated bourbon. And so they said, "Hey, let's see what these are like if we blend them." We liked it better. And so this actually will be a 4-grain product. So this is something they haven't done before. We will send out an email to people who have purchased tickets. And then as people purchase tickets, they will get that information as well, where you can go in and pre-purchase a bottle of it. And I would highly recommend it. This is it was one that was just, a lot of vanilla, caramel, just very sweet. Somebody, it may have been John, actually said cake batter, and that was it. It tasted like a little bit like cake batter almost. And then that was the wheated, and then the high rye that we liked really just added a little more complexity and depth to it. And I'm going to try my best to buy several bottles. Now, as far as pre-sale, you'll be limited to one. If there are any left over at the festival, we'll open it up to multiple purchases. So,
awesome.
And it'll be $90 a bottle on those.
Okay,
great.
That's great. That's great. See, did I get everybody? Our friends at Buzzard Roost will be there, so that'll be great. Foregate, yeah. I mean, I don't know that you could have a much stronger lineup of distillers in this region anyway. So congratulations on that. That's very
and I saw Penelope on there. I think they're really some great people too. Horse Soldier, that is a very cool story. I don't know if you're very familiar with the name and background on that. They were some of the those guys have a military background, and they're in special forces, and they were on the ground in Afghanistan, just days after 9/11 happened. And as we're here on 9/11, and they literally, to get around, they rode horses. And that's where that name is from. So great story. If you happen to meet them, go up and talk to them a little bit.
Yeah. And the thing that's really struck me last year was it was a great lineup of distillers last year as well, but everybody was very open to have a conversation with you, answer whatever questions you had. So it was a very laid back, relaxed atmosphere. Felt very comfortable, and so I think that's something that really sets Bourbon on the Banks apart from a lot of the other whiskey festivals. It's got a deep lineup of distilleries there that are represented, different things that you can try, but it is also very accessible.
Absolutely. That's cool.
And another thing is, what's the purpose of this festival? And so, the money we raise, one of the big things we do is we give a scholarship, and that had always been a scholarship to someone going in the fermentation and distillation program at Kentucky State University. So we've expanded it a little bit, so it would still cover someone going into their fermentation distillation program, or anyone from Franklin County, Kentucky, where Frankfurt is, that is entering any accredited fermentation and distillation program. We also give some money to the White Oak Initiative, I believe is the proper name of that, which a lot of your distilleries, especially your big distilleries, are in that, and it is really about sustainability of the white oak, which, of course, we all know is very important to make the stuff we like.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's all fantastic. So thank you for your work with Bourbon on the Banks and making all that happen. Really good stuff. So,
I'm happy to do it. I keep saying every year, and I've said it on a few other podcasts, and it's kind of half joking and half not. Every year, I really think about stepping down from the board just so that I can go to the festival and enjoy it. I feel like being on the board, if I'm going to go, I volunteer, and tend to work the festival. Now, last year, you saw me there. At one point, I did take my vest off. I hid it under Hunter's table over there at Three Boys, and had a few samples maybe. But it is such a great festival. It's a really good time.
Yeah. We did a group photo, I think, there at Hunter's booth at one point, that it was getting near the end and it was starting to go a little dark, and people had all had a little bit to drink, and I don't know who took the picture or what happened to the picture, but I would love to get my hands on it, because there were probably 30 or 40 of us in that photo. And, it's just, as you're walking through, you say, oh, hey, I know them from such and such. And hey, I remember them. And so as you're just walking down the banks of the river from booth to booth, you're just running into people that from all kinds of different places. And it's a great way to connect. It really is.
Yeah, that's where I met Steve Porter for the first time.
Yeah.
From what's his? Is it Woodshed? Is that the name of his distillery?
I think so.
And yeah. Oh, one other thing you brought up, that group photo. I think John and Corey were probably in that photo with Stave and Bean Coffee. As long as we can make it happen in time. So I think Wilderness Trail has already dumped that barrel. Either I'm going to go pick it up, John's going to pick it up, and they're going to try and age some coffee in the barrel and have it ready in time for Bourbon on the Banks Festival.
Oh, wow.
So you'll be able to buy the bottle of bourbon and then some coffee that was aged in those barrels.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's a great little Monday morning combo. Get your Stave and Bean coffee and a little splash of Wilderness Trail. Yeah.
Well, and you may need to take a day off on Sunday and just have the coffee, but then Monday you can go straight back to both of them.
Sure, whatever it takes. All right. Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it. I know that Mike, our friend from My Whiskey Den, he's coming down, and so we'll be going there. Drew will be going, so need to get my tickets so I can get that advanced purchase bottle wilderness trail too. So that's a great idea. I love it.
Very cool.
All right. So let's transition a little bit to what we call side B of the show, and let's talk a little music, Amzie. First of all, do you play an instrument?
So I am the kid who never even really managed to learn how to play the recorder in middle school. So I am the most musically challenged person you've ever met.
I doubt that's the case, but I understand.
So Destiny and I took a ballroom dancing class years ago, and she literally would have to tap me on the beat so that I could dance.
Yeah,
that is no joke. And then at one point they had to switch and dance with some other person, and I'm like, I don't know what to do now. And I was just, it was a mess.
You just telling them, look, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
This is I'm doing interpretive dance here. So
that's right.
Yeah. So from a music standpoint, as a music fan, do you remember what your first concert was?
Yeah, it was George Strait.
Oh, wow.
Oh, right. King George.
I believe at Freedom Hall in Louisville.
Wow.
Outstanding.
That's
outstanding. Now, what era of George Strait would this have been?
I'm sorry, you cut out for a second, so I missed what your question was there.
No, I just said, what year would this have been? Which George Strait were we getting at the time?
Probably 92 or 93, something like that.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. There for a while, I had a bunch of friends that's all they listened to was country music. And I even remember one time, this one friend, I was driving down the road somewhere. I was following him. He was riding with someone else. I think he was fairly intoxicated. And I just kept seeing something like fly out the window of their car. It was nighttime. And basically, he was going through their tapes, their cassettes in their car. And basically, if it wasn't country music, he didn't like it, and he was just slinging them out the window. Yeah.
Well, you're just doing him a favor,
Yeah.
A little cleanup.
I have some friends that I'd like to do that to their music collection in their cars. But now it's just a phone, so I'd be out like $1,000 if I decided to pull something like that.
Yeah. So I'm not really the biggest country fan.
Yeah.
I don't listen to any country now. Definitely not any modern country. But yeah, I'd imagine if some King George came on, I'd probably have to listen to it. So
that's fantastic. Do you remember the first album you bought?
So wasn't the first one I bought, but I remember the first one my parents bought for me.
Yeah.
Now, and this is an album. Okay. So since we're on side B, I am old enough that I had a record player when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I'd get made fun of too much. So I don't really want to mention how much I rocked out to some Olivia Newton-John physical, when I was a little fat kid running around dancing to that.
This is not a show that will mock you for that. We're all in.
Yeah. But actually, so the first
Hmm.
tape, it was Christmas. I don't know what year it was, but my parents bought it for me. I don't know why they bought it for me. It was the Cars Candy-O.
Oh, wow.
And the other thing, if you remember the album cover to
I
Candy-O,
do.
it's got a very scantily clad woman, I think it's really like a drawing. It's not real, but I'm like, I can't believe that they bought that for me. I was like, I don't know, 10 years old, 9 years old, 8 something. I don't know.
That is a surprising thing for a parent to buy. I mean, how old were you at the time? You remember?
Like I said, somewhere between 8 and 10, probably.
Okay.
Now my second tape was AC/DC Back in Black.
Let's see.
All right. There you go.
And all my older cousins, that really, I gained their respect. Working in hay in Grandpa's barn or whatever, the radio was usually, I don't know if y'all are originally from Louisville, but it was on probably LRS 102, which then it eventually switched over to QMF, 96 QMF.
Right.
So just hard rock, heavy metal was mostly what my older cousins listened to.
Yeah, hang on just a second. Let me.
It's hard at work here.
Yeah, not really that hard at work. Just for reference purposes, I want to share this because this is I mean, it's a pretty interesting album cover. I mean,
Yep.
yeah,
That was it.
I could not imagine my parents buying that album for me.
And like I said, I don't know that they even knew the music, and so it's like they just walked in and saw that and thought that was the good, the perfect gift for their young son. I don't know.
Well, well, I guess in some ways, yeah, sure. But no, that was a great album.
Yeah.
Let's Go was on there. Yeah. Yeah, good album. And then Back in Black's a classic. So yeah, I mean you're batting 1,000 here, Amzie. So what were the things that you listened to the most growing up? I mean, a lot of people, high school years or college years are kind of the formative time for developing your own musical taste. What was really
and so back then too, you couldn't just like go on iTunes or whatever and listen to 30 seconds of a song or whatever. And so a lot of it was, stuff my cousins listened to. So a lot of, just your heavy metal stuff. But I do remember buying Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream. No idea what they were. Had never heard their music. I bought it and I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
And then I had a football game in Paoli, or Paola, as old Mud Fossil would probably say. And I got a concussion at that football game. Happened very first play of the game. If you go back and look at the video, I basically woke up the next day and didn't remember the day before. So went to the hospital, CAT scans, all that. Knew who the president was, got the month and year wrong. I mean, my bell was rung pretty hard. But apparently that was what was in the tape player in my truck on the way home that night. And I loved it. After that, I don't know. I was a huge Smashing Pumpkins fan. I've seen them in concert a few times. I remember a friend from high school who's passed on now telling me about Stone Temple Pilots. Because I graduated in '94, so you think, I mean, my goodness, Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, Smashing Pumpkins, basically every good band. I mean, that like there were just so many good bands to choose from then. And
your high school days was the grunge era, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, that's all on the classic rock channels now. But
right.
So, are we gonna have our takeaway from this episode be that it takes brain trauma to enjoy the Smashing Pumpkins, or
maybe, I don't know. Now, I will say, so a friend and I, we went and saw them. I saw them in Indianapolis. Garbage opened for them, and then another friend. We were tour guides at Wyandotte Cave in Indiana, and they were coming to Louisville. And we actually went. We called one of there wasn't really internet yet, and so we called one of those like kind of scalper places, and we paid $180 each, and we sat front row center stage for Smashing Pumpkins and Garbage in Louisville.
Wow,
and that was cool. That was a good experience. Yeah,
that's very
absolutely
cool.
But also, I will add that I have been in the mosh pit at Pantera as well. I got grabbed by security and was being escorted out at the well, I guess it was actually it may have been Ozfest, or was it or it could have been Lollapalooza. Anyways, Tool was playing, and out in the lawn, like I remember we were under the covered part. I think it was at Deer Creek, whatever they call that now in Indianapolis. And just turned around and looked, and the sky was dark behind us. And it was because of all of the sod being thrown. They had recently sodded the lawn, and they thought it was a good idea to do that before, like Lollapalooza or Ozfest or whatever it was. And so a couple friends, we just went out there, started grabbing sod, throwing it. I throw like one piece, and the next thing I know, somebody grabs my arm. And it's security. And I see other people getting grabbed, but then they'd let go of them and grab somebody else. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have a chance here. And then my guy tells the other guy, is like, hey, don't let that guy go. Let's get them out first. Then we'll come back and get more people. And I'm like, man, I'm not I'm not getting out of here, you know. And finally, the guy in front of me started fighting with the security officer or police officer, whoever, trying to get him out. I said, buddy, hey, I'm not going to fight you like that. I'm going to be like that guy. And so he let go of me to help deal with that guy, and I took off. And so I did get to see the rest of that concert.
So how old
yeah.
were you then?
Probably like 21 or something like that. Yeah, I think I was like 21. And yeah. So that was actually, you know, Tool is one of my favorite concerts I've been to. Tool and Pantera. Yeah. And then yeah, top 3 would be Tool, Pantera, and Beck, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
all right.
That would have been
that's
like
a little off the beaten path from the other two.
Yeah, that would have been like maybe the Odelay album, I think, when I saw him. And, you know, here's something that kind of makes me feel old is the opening acts were Atari Teenage Riot and the Roots, which are now the Tonight Show band. So
yeah, wow,
yeah,
that's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see Tool last year when they came through Louisville?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I've gotten to that point now where I'm like, you know, trying to drag me to a concert would be pretty rough. And like I see people going to all these music festivals now, and I'm like, it's hot. I could just sit here. I can sit here at home in the air conditioning and, you know, just listen to music. So
yeah.
I get that to a degree. It has to be if I'm going to really go to an arena or a stadium, it's got to be something that I really want to see. And because it's usually pretty ridiculously priced these days. I mean, it's you know, $100 ticket and then $30 for Ticketmaster fees, and
you know, I'm more likely to honestly probably pay to go see a stand-up comedian because I think they are always funnier in person.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I will do that. But honest to goodness, I can't even think of the last concert I went to. It was probably Susan Tedeschi.
Oh wow!
At Clues Hall in Indianapolis.
Yeah,
that's great. Have you kept up with
was like?
Go ahead.
Oh, I would say that was probably like 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while since Susan Tedeschi toured by herself. Yeah.
Have you kept up with the I Am the Moon releases with the Tedeschi Trucks band?
No, I haven't. So I also go through these weird phases with music where I don't listen to any music for a long time, and I just listen to nothing but like talk radio and podcasts, and then I will get back into music for a while. And that's always kind of fun because then there's so much new stuff out there that I haven't heard in like a few years. So
true. No, right. I'm very similar to that. I'll go sometimes where I'm like, okay, I just need to actually think for a minute. Let me listen to a podcast about something, and then you know, a couple days later, all right, you know, enough of that. Let's go back to the music. I feel you.
Yeah. But you know, there are some good venues. Louisville Palace is a great place to go see a show in this area, and then you know, nearby, we're not too far from the Ryman, for example. That's a great place to go see a show. So you know,
never been there. I think I've only been to the Palace one time, and I remember thinking that you could go see anyone at the Palace because it is such a cool venue. When I was there, I saw Sheryl Crow and the Wallflowers.
Yeah.
Wow, sweet.
That was also probably late 90s, I think, I saw them. And it was actually Sheryl Crow's birthday that day. And she was, by the end of it, was literally falling down drunk on stage. So, yeah.
Love it. As you should on your birthday.
Yeah. You mentioned stand-up comedians. And, you know, so who are the people that you enjoy or that you've seen live or want to see live?
How about this? One of the worst was Bill Cosby. He just went on a rant, like, and then at the very end, like the last 5 minutes, he did one of his old skits, the one about going to the dentist and his mouth's numb. You know, that was funny. Jerry Seinfeld was good. saw Chris Rock like late 90s. That was pretty good. Recently, the most recent would have been Nate Bargatze. And I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he is hilarious. And he actually is a clean comedian. He doesn't say a single curse word or anything. And I think he's one of the best out there right now. But
yeah, he's very funny.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Good. Yeah, maybe that needs to be a show sometime. Comedy albums.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be
Oh,
fun.
there you go.
That'd be
There's
fun.
a one of one in my mind, but we'll save it for the show. Text it offline.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. So if we get in the car with you and sometime, Amzie, and we're not listening to a podcast, what might we be listening to today?
So it's funny. I would probably I would scan until I got some, like I said, kind of classic rock type station that's going to have what was classic rock when I was young, but then also it's going to have some of that grunge stuff and everything else to it. I know some of our friends have a mixed opinion. I do like Mellencamp quite a bit too. So being from Indiana, I think you have to. And actually I used to live not far from him.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, actually used to jog past our house. And that was Elaine Irwin, and she was a model and everything. And I think even when she would be jogging past, she was still doing like, I don't know, Maybelline commercials or something. And, I'd be out working in the yard all sweaty and like cut off t-shirt on. And I didn't have the beard, so I don't think it was quite as creepy then. But, if I would like wave at her, she would like run faster. But then like if Destiny would be out in the yard with me, like she would like wave back and say hi and stuff. So
that's her problem, not yours.
That's
okay?
right. That's right.
You're a very friendly, wonderful human being, and if she can't see that, that's her problem.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, there's some Mellencamp music that I enjoy. I just think he's gotten so full of himself that it kind of offsets the music that I really liked. So and we're going to do a show, and we may have to have you back when we do it, called Sucking on a Chili Dog
There we go. All right.
and other odd lyrics. So
I don't want to take any part in the contests on that show.
Blind tasting of chili dogs. Okay.
I will say I had a friend. So he lives in Bloomington, Indiana. And Bloomington's a pretty small town, and especially if you take the university out of it. And I had a friend years ago. She was at Kroger, and she's there looking at Hamburger Helper, and this guy next to her says, "Is this stuff any good?" And she looks over, and it's John Mellencamp.
Yeah.
And then he proceeded to tell her, like, I think it was like 1 or 2 nights a week, he would cook dinner for his kids. And so he bought some Hamburger Helper, and that was it.
Awesome.
Probably wrote 4 songs about it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Or maybe he put some of that on a hot dog instead of chili. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's great. Oh man,
that's all part of his creative process. We can't judge him. So.
Sure, he's an artist. He's an artist.
Yeah.
Of course. All right. Well, Amzie, we're going to start wrapping up the show here a little bit, but before we do, tell everybody where they can find you on social media and what they need to know about Bourbon on the Banks.
So for one, Bourbon on the Banks, you got the website there is the best way for that. As far as social media, I'm pretty much just on Facebook. We have some mutual friends. I got on something on Instagram last week, and I was like, oh, like all these things where I was messaged or mentioned in somebody's post or whatever, like whether it was Jolie or Alan or whoever else. I'm like, it was like 6 weeks ago. I'm like, I missed that one. So pretty much on Facebook, on the Bourbon on the Banks website, Frankfurt Bourbon Society, which is frankfurtbourbonsociety.com. You can find me on there as well.
Well, appreciate the work that you do in both places. So
absolutely.
Drew, how about you?
Yep, I'm on Twitter at DrewCrawley63, mostly for snark and sarcasm, and then Instagram at Drew.Crawley63, where you can follow my music and all the things coming up there.
Hey, speaking of music.
Yeah. So yeah, if you listen to anything that I have out, I would be honored. Currently, you can find Tower Songs, and we're getting ready to upload a new acoustic EP, which will be fun. And then we are 2 weeks out as we record this from hitting the studio to make the next record. So very excited about that. We'll have some fun live dates to accompany when that comes out.
That's awesome. Good stuff.
You may actually get me to come out to live music at some point. So.
We'll have to do it. There's always a bottle of bourbon backstage. So, and backstage is just my guitar case over on the side. But there's always one in there. So swing by. We'll get your free drink and a show.
Oh, that's awesome. For the show, we are on Instagram and Facebook. We have a Facebook page, which we've had since we started the show. And we've just launched a Facebook group that we want to just kind of build a bit of community around the idea of blending the whiskey experience with the music experience. So go out, go to Facebook, search the Bourbon Turntable group, hop on in there, and then tell us what you're drinking, tell us what you're listening to, and we'll all tell you whether it's good or not. No, we'll be very nice. But we're also, you can watch the show on YouTube. You can listen to the show on your favorite podcast platform. So, Amzie, thanks so much for being with us. Really do appreciate the work that you're doing. And Bourbon on the Banks is a heck of a lot of fun. And it sounds like you're going to have a great turnout again this year. So we'll have you on again soon when we're talking about John Mellencamp and what he does to chili dogs. But until our next show, which, hang on, let me find this. I got ahead of myself. I've only done this for a year. I ought to be better at this. Our next show.
Yeah, we're going to have our good friend, Mr. Brian Hara, on to discuss his book, Bourbon Justice. We're going to be talking about some fun lawsuits in the bourbon world and the music world as well.
Yeah, we've got some fun things to talk about in terms of music legal battles beyond just copyright infringements. It's a lot of good stuff. So be looking forward to that. So until next time, on behalf of Drew, our great friend and guest Amzie Wenning, cheers, love, and free bird.
Cheers, y'all.
Good night.